My husband filed for divorce to be with my best friend after I inherited my mom's fortune. He thought he hit the jackpot, but my mom outsmarted them both. My husband filed for divorce 2 weeks after I inherited my mom's money. He thought he'd walk away with half of everything, but my mom, even from beyond the grave, made sure he got nothing. My mom passed in March after a long battle with cancer. She was a retired accountant who spent 40 years building a quiet fortune. She didn't drive fancy cars or wear expensive clothes. She lived in the same 3-bedroom house my whole life. When the estate lawyer read her will, I found out she had left me just over $2.3 million in savings, investments, and the house. I cried. Not because of the money, because she spent her whole life being careful so I wouldn't have to struggle. My husband Kevin was sitting right next to me when the number came out. He squeezed my hand and said, "She really loved you." 3 days later, he started acting different. He was on his phone constantly. He'd leave the room to take calls. He was suddenly interested in our finances, asking questions he never asked in 6 years of marriage. How does inheritance work in a divorce? Do both spouses have a claim? He said he was just curious. I didn't think much of it because I was still grieving. 2 weeks after the will reading, Kevin sat me down at the kitchen table with a folder. Inside were divorce papers. He said he hadn't been happy for a long time and that we had grown apart. He said he hoped we could do this quietly. I asked him if this was really happening right now. My mom had been dead for less than a month. He said, "I know the timing isn't great, but I think it's better to be honest now than drag it out." I signed nothing. I told him I needed time. He moved out that weekend and stayed with a friend. Except it wasn't a friend. It was Dana, my best friend since college. I found out because Kevin left his laptop open on the kitchen counter before he finished packing. There were messages going back 5 months. Dana telling him to wait until. The inheritance came through before filing. Kevin asking how much he could get if they split while the money was still fresh. Dana saying, "She won't fight you. She's too soft. Just act sad and she'll give you whatever you want." 5 months. While my mom was dying, they were planning how to take her money. I sat on my kitchen floor and read every message. Then I called my mom's estate lawyer. His name was Bill Jeffries. He had handled my mom's affairs for over 20 years. When I told him what happened, he went quiet for a second. Then he said, "Your mother anticipated something like this." He asked me to come into his office. When I got there, he pulled out a separate document my mom had prepared. It was a protective trust. My mom had not left me the money directly. She placed everything into an irrevocable trust with specific conditions. The trust stated that the inheritance was mine alone and could not be considered marital property. It also stated that if any legal action attempted to claim the trust assets, the funds would automatically redirect into a secondary trust managed by Bill until the matter was resolved. Kevin couldn't touch it. Not a dollar, not the house, nothing. Bill told me my mom had set this up 2 years before she died. She told him, "I don't trust that man. I never have. Make sure he can't take what I'm leaving my daughter." I didn't know any of this. She never said a word. Kevin's lawyer sent over his demands the following week. He wanted the house my mom left me. He wanted 50% of the inheritance. He wanted spousal support because he claimed he had supported me emotionally during my mom's illness. His lawyer argued the inheritance had been commingled with marital assets. Bill sent back the trust documents. He included a letter that said the inheritance had never entered my personal accounts, had never been commingled, and was held in an irrevocable trust that Kevin had no legal standing to access. Kevin's lawyer called Bill and asked if there was room to negotiate. Bill said no. Kevin called me that night. He didn't sound sad anymore. He sounded angry. "Your mom set this up on purpose." "Yes, she did. That money should be ours. We're married. You filed for divorce, Kevin, and you've been with Dana since before my mom even died." He went quiet. I saw the messages, all of them. 5 months of YouTube planning how to take my inheritance while I was driving my mom to chemo. He hung up. Dana texted me the next day. "This is a misunderstanding. Kevin and I are just friends. You're blowing this out of proportion." I didn't respond. I forwarded the screenshots of their messages to her and never texted her again. The divorce went through fast after that. Kevin got what he came into the marriage with, which wasn't much. His car, his clothes, half of our joint savings, which was about $6,000. No inheritance, no house, no spousal support. The judge reviewed the trust and said there was nothing to dispute. Bill handled everything. After it was finalized, I moved into my mom's house. I repainted the walls. I kept her garden going. I put her favorite chair by the window where she used to read. Kevin moved in with Dana. Last I heard, they're renting a 1-bedroom and fighting about money. He thought my mom was just a quiet old woman, but she spent 20 years with an estate lawyer making sure everything she built would stay exactly where she wanted it, with me. I think about her every morning when I sit in that chair. She couldn't protect me from Kevin, but she made sure he'd never profit from hurting me. MIL refused to accept my daughter from a previous marriage and called her a burden. Then they threw me a birthday party with a cake that had my husband's ex-wife's name on it. My mother-in-law refused to accept my daughter from a previous marriage and called her a burden. Then they threw me a birthday party and brought out a cake with my husband's ex-wife's name on it. I wish I was making this up. I married my husband Grant 3 years ago. I have a daughter from my first marriage named Piper. She's 8. Piper's biological father walked out when she was 2 and hasn't been involved since. Grant came into our lives when Piper was 4. He treats her like his own. He reads to her every night, coaches her soccer team, and the first thing he does when he gets home is find her and ask about her day. Piper calls him dad. That's not something I pushed. She chose it on her own. His mother, Lorraine, has never accepted Piper. From the very beginning, Lorraine made it clear that Piper wasn't part of her family. At holiday dinners, she'd buy gifts for Grant's nieces and nephews and nothing for Piper. At family photos, she'd say, "Just blood. Family for this one." She told Grant during our engagement that marrying a woman with a child was a burden he didn't need to carry. Grant told her to stop. She didn't stop. She just got quieter about it. She'd make comments when Grant wasn't in the room. She told Piper once that she wasn't a real grandchild. Piper was 6. She came home and asked me, "Mommy, what does real grandchild mean?" I wanted to drive to Lorraine's house and say things that would get me uninvited from every family gathering for the rest of my life, but I didn't. I told Grant. He called his mother. She denied it. She always denies it. That's her talent. She says terrible things and then acts shocked when anyone calls her on it. Despite everything, I kept trying. I showed up to family events. I brought Piper. I smiled through the comments and the exclusion because Grant loved his mother and I loved Grant. Then came my birthday. Grant told me his family wanted to throw me a party. I was surprised because Lorraine had never done anything for me before. He said his sister organized it and Lorraine was hosting at her house. He said it would be small, just family. I said okay. We showed up on a Saturday afternoon. There were streamers and a table set up in the backyard. About 15 people. Lorraine greeted us at the door. She hugged Grant, looked past Piper, and said to me, "Happy birthday, dear." I said thank you and walked in. Everything was fine for the first hour. People were friendly. Food was good. Piper played with the other kids in the yard. I started to relax. I thought maybe things were changing. Then they brought out the cake. It was a white sheet cake with pink writing. I saw it from across the table and my stomach dropped before my brain caught up. The cake said happy birthday, Valerie. Valerie is Grant's ex-wife. They were together for 3 years before me. No kids. The breakup was mutual. Lorraine loved Valerie. She talked about her constantly. She kept photos of Valerie and Grant on her fridge for a full year after they split. Even after Grant and I got married, Lorraine would say things like, "Valerie always knew how to make Grant smile," or "Valerie never brought complications into the family." Complications. She meant Piper. And now there was a cake with Valerie's name on it at my birthday party. The room went quiet. Grant looked at the cake and then at his mother. Lorraine put her hand over her mouth like she'd made an innocent mistake. Oh my goodness. I must have told the bakery the wrong name. I am so sorry. I looked at her. She wasn't sorry. Her eyes were steady. No panic, no embarrassment. excitement. She knew exactly what she'd ordered. Grant said, "Mom, what is this?" "It's a mistake, Grant. I'll call the bakery and complain." I stood there in front of 15 people looking at another woman's name on my birthday cake, while my daughter stood beside me holding a paper plate waiting for a slice. I didn't yell. I said, "Lorraine, you've excluded my daughter from every photo, every gift, and every holiday since the day I married your son. You've called her a burden. You told her she wasn't a real grandchild. And now you put your son's ex-wife's name on my birthday cake and you're standing there pretending it was an accident." She opened her mouth. I kept going. "I have tried for 3 years to be part of this family. I have smiled through every comment. I have brought my daughter to events where you pretend she doesn't exist. And this is what you do. This is what I get for trying." Grant's sister looked horrified. His aunt was staring at Lorraine. Grant grabbed the cake and threw it in the trash. He didn't say a word to his mother. He took Piper's hand, put his arm around me, and walked us out the front door. In the car, Piper said, "Mommy, whose name was on the cake?" I said, "Nobody important, baby." Grant gripped the steering wheel and said, "She's done. I'm done with her." Lorraine called 4 times that night. Grant didn't answer. She texted him saying I was overreacting and that it was an honest mistake. He replied, "You put my ex-wife's name on my wife's birthday cake." Piper saw it. "Don't contact us until you're ready to apologize to both of them." She hasn't apologized. It's been 2 months. Grant hasn't spoken to her. Piper hasn't asked about Grandma Lorraine. I think she stopped expecting anything from her a long time ago. And honestly, so did I. The cake just made it official.
My brother used my house for his wedding, then showed up with a moving truck. I had my lawyer waiting in the driveway. My brother asked to use my backyard for his wedding. I said yes. 2 weeks later, he pulled up with a moving truck and started unloading furniture into my garage. He said Mom and Dad told him he could move in. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just called my lawyer, who was parked at the end of the driveway before the second box hit the ground. My brother Keith has never owned anything. He's 34. I'm 37. I bought my house 6 years ago. 3-bedroom, big yard, quiet neighborhood. I saved for the down payment by living in a studio for 4 years. Nobody helped me. Nobody co-signed. It's mine. Keith bartends, picks up odd jobs, crashes on couches. He proposed to a woman named Jess in March. Nobody knew where they'd live after the wedding because neither had a lease. When Keith asked if they could use my backyard for the ceremony, I thought he was just trying to save money on a venue. He said it would be small, 40 people. They'd bring everything in and clean everything up. I said fine. The wedding was on a Saturday in September. It was not small. 83 people showed up. Someone drove a truck across my lawn and left ruts in the grass. The caterer used my kitchen without asking and left grease stains on the counters. The DJ blasted music until midnight and 2 neighbors complained. I didn't say anything because it was Keith's wedding day. They said they'd clean up Sunday. They didn't. I spent Monday hauling trash bags, folding chairs, and scrubbing my kitchen. The tent company told me Keith hadn't paid the remaining balance and asked me to cover it. I said no. That should have been the end of it. 2 weeks later, a moving truck backed into my driveway. Keith jumped out. Jess was in the passenger seat. My mom was in a car behind them. Keith opened the truck and started pulling out a couch. I walked outside. "What are you doing?" "Moving in." "Mom said she talked to you." I looked at my mom. She was getting out of her car with a casserole dish. "I told Keith you had that extra bedroom sitting empty. It makes sense while they get on their feet. You didn't ask me." "I didn't think I needed to." "You're his brother." Keith was already carrying boxes toward the garage. Then I pulled out my phone and called Raymond. Raymond is my lawyer. He's also my neighbor. He lives 4 houses down. I'd been using him for contract work related to some rental properties I was looking into. He picked up on the first ring. "Ray, I need you at my house right now." He was in my driveway in under 3 minutes, still in his weekend clothes. He walked up to Keith, who was carrying a box marked kitchen stuff, and said, "Hi, I'm Raymond Estes. I'm the homeowner's attorney. Can you